Hello everyone, welcome once again to Investing with the Difference. So today we are going to talk about some important aspects of EOS, especially around referendum. While it is a referendum video, we will talk about many aspects, what's going on with REX, ECAF, the changes we talked about, the 1:1 token versus voting, and so on. And the reason why we keep going back to referendum is remember that any change, any proposals which are going to make a huge change to EOS mechanics, there has to be a referendum so that BPs can execute it, and that's why I always highlighted why referendum was a huge milestone. So now let's try to look at what is the status. So I love this EOS Authority tool. So do look out. I think this is one of the best tools I saw in terms of the visuals on what's going on in the referendums. So if you look at this, so right now the first, so how it is ordered. Usually all the tools are ordering based on number of votes received. They are trying to put that referendum on the top. So the most votes are received on removing ECAF. Now let's understand what it is. So they're talking about removing core arbitration forum, which is I think ECAF, which we talked about. ECAF was responsible for issuing orders to block producers to freeze accounts, to change the keys, and also trying to do some dispute resolution. And most of the people are against it because of the FUD around it, because of the it's a centralized system where it cannot scale. Most of the stolen funds are it was very useful initially when there were hacks of the Genesis snapshot keys. People were fooled, and it was seen as a very useful thing. But what people soon realized that that was a one-time opportunity, because you could validate the actual key owners using your Ethereum private keys, but it's not applicable for stolen funds because EOS is a very fast chain, and most of the times they're almost ineffective. They create more FUD and more control and attack vectors. And I think more and more, I think people are realizing that ECAF is not going to work, and that's why I think they want it. Now, the funny thing is, this is more of a poll which is raised as a referendum. I also made a mistake. I will talk about it later. But this is more like a poll which says that should we remove it, or would EOS be better off? It's not a great wording as a referendum, but because it was put in early, a lot of people are voting, and it's a strong opinion in the community against it. So it's going to be good in terms of getting. We should see this as a poll rather than referendum, but I think it will give most of the block producers much better ideas on why to ignore ECAF now. And that is, I think, great progress in itself, even if it does not give us substantial change. Now, the biggest one is the REX. Now, what you need to understand, let me go into detail. So this is talking about, this referendum is talking about, should EOS tokens be moved the like from the RAM fee and the names. So basically RAM fee is the account where when you are trading RAM, there is a small fee, 0.5% fee, which goes into EOS RAM fee account. And there is a names, that is the account which collects a fee for premium names, like a shorter than 12 character names which people are bidding. So these are reasonably sized accounts, and they have been accumulating funds. And this is not inflation. This is not confusing with awarding any inflation to the EOS account owners. This is a fee without any inflation, and it's very non-controversial to implement REX. So a lot of people have come together, and I hope this is already 12 million votes. We need, in next 2 to 3 months, we need to get to 150 million and retain there for 30 days to make this happen. And they have also made a code change. So remember, block one already gave the REX code. It's available. So now a lot of people ask, when will it happen? I think the referendum, it is in your hands. You have to go vote. If you are proxying with us, we have already voted in favor of this. We do want to support this because REX is a great addition to EOS ecosystem. It will really improve a lot of things. And this has proposal has actually been translated in all the languages. There's a lot of progress which has been done by these block producers who are supporting it, and by the community members who are trying to get this passed. So do spread the word around. Hopefully you will be able to really get this passed. And again, it's all depends on people who are going to vote for it. But it's a good sign that it's already at number 2, and it is still 15 days left. Remember, we need to reach 150 million votes before it is 30 days, because you need to maintain that 30-day voting period. And again, another reminder, any of these referendums, we are already voting for them as a proxy, and we will highlight if you are voting no to any proposal. And remember that you can always change, even if you are proxying with us, without removing your proxy. You can vote again on this proposal, and your tokens will have your, you can override basically the proxy voting on your behalf. So there is nothing which you cannot control here. So be, if you want to be involved, make decisions yourself, feel free to do that. If you're not proxying with us, we'd highly recommend you to vote. It's very important, because this is how we will get rex passed. This is how we, if you really believe against ECAF, you can get ECAF removed. Then finally, there are polls. So there's a difference between polls and referendum. Polls are more like opinions, but the reason they are important is, doing a social media poll on Twitter and Telegram, or any other place, is not really the voice of token holders. That is just people who are more louder than you, who just participate more. Maybe they don't even own the tokens. So the polls on chain are, have much more value, because now you're voting with your tokens. You are signing with Scatter, you are actually throwing the weight of your tokens behind it. So all these polls are very important. So while this is only 30-day poll, which can never be a referendum, and first of all, there is this code implementation is not available from block 1, but it looks like a lot of people are backing the new proposal from Brendan Bloomer, that the weight of the vote should be changed to 1 token 1 vote, rather than 30 votes today, that every token can make. Then we had asked about, so this was before I realized that there is a different category of polls, and I by mistake created a referendum. But you should see this as a poll. We talked about, should we burn 4% inflation, and this was proposed by me, and we are getting pretty good response. I think most of the people agree that we don't need to use this inflation. It's too high. We have 23 million EOS tokens sitting in this account, and it's very difficult. People are talking about WPS and worker proposal systems. I would like to support them if there is a good way to allocate funds, if there is a good token holder approval system, just like referendums. If somebody comes with a project which makes sense, which gets the referendum approval, I don't mind it. But anyway, there is going to be another referendum to stop the inflation. That is, right now it is accumulated inflation, and then there is a continuous inflation happening. So there are multiple things to be changed here. I am focusing here on this as a poll for whether we should just burn the accumulated one, because that's a wastage of inflation. That is around 23 million tokens in circulation, which we can get rid of. And it's almost like reducing the supply and adding value that way. Now, another one which I wanted to highlight, this is not to pay attention. This was, I think they were talking about reducing the number of BPs, which have no meaning, and it's getting properly rejected. 99.8% people don't agree with that. Now, this is interesting one, because this one had a lot of heated debates in our Telegram channel. This was one of the most discussed topic yesterday. So want to spend some time on this. So this is coming from the people who have been running this WPS working group or something, and they're in favor of worker proposal funds. And they're also trying to recommend some committees, that is EOS Commons program, they call it. And this is about trying to create a committee which approves this worker proposal systems and so on. It's a pretty detailed proposal, so I like that fact that this is a greatly written referendum. What I don't like about it is they also tried to add the burning of tokens, which we are talking about in a separate referendum. And what my conflict was that a lot of people are, some of the people, sorry, in this group, they're trying to promote this referendum as a great thing for community, because it will help 22 million tokens being burnt. But on the other hand, they are not highlighting that they are taking 1 million tokens away from this fund, which will be at the disposal of this community to approve projects. Now, this is something I'm totally against. So be careful out there. This is what we call in US politics as riders. People try to define certain programs, and then they highlight what makes sense to people and get that voted, while there are some other things which people do not notice. So this is what this was discussed in our channel, on our Telegram channel. If you're there, What I wanted to highlight here is that we are against two reasons. The two reasons we are against. So when I say no, I definitely add a comment. So this is on the blockchain. This comment is on blockchain. When we voted no, this was actually registered as a comment, and anybody can see this. So what I'm saying is we do not agree with centralized committee, which is proposed. We also said that should take up burning tokens from accumulated inflation. We should take this up. We agree with this plan that we should have the tokens burnt, but we said should be a separate referendum to avoid confusion, because right now this referendum is being marketed. So whatever these yes have been voted, even though it's a small amount of people, I'm not sure if they are voting for the committee or they are voting for burning the inflation, because now you are telling them, why don't you vote to burn 22 million tokens? That is a great idea. A lot of people will agree to that without realizing that 1 million tokens are being given away in this process. So while burning inflation is good, it should not be combined as a voting item. And this is a rider which we don't agree with. And other part which I am talking about is if EOS Commons Development Fund program defined by this particular committee or proposed by these people and a certain committee members, they have some 7 committee members defined, the nominees, why not 10 other committees? If it's a great idea, why are you burning everything else? Why not you say, we want this allocation and we are open to other committees to come up? Why only a centralized committee? Why a specific set of people? So these are the kind of thing I would say do not make sense to create budgets while saying that we only know how to run WPS, while we will let everything else burn. So that is another reason you should not combine this burning of tokens with this program, and that is one of the reasons we are voting no. And we highly recommend people to go and vote against it if you do not believe in this system, and especially because it's not a good referendum. Now the good thing about this referendum is that it is executable. It can, if it passes, if it is valid for above 150 million votes for 30 consecutive days, it can be passed and actually implemented. So that's a good thing. So I appreciate all the hard work these guys are doing in putting up these referendums. So as I said, Rex and this EOS Commons, which is going negative right now, 78% people have said no, and I agree on that. And Rex, which is mostly yes, 98.4% people are in the actually executable state. They, if they get passed, and we need to promote this Rex for 150 million votes. There are some other interesting ones. We also proposed a poll. Again, this was a referendum, but we actually did it only for 30 days. It was a poll, and we talked about vote decay. There was a good discussion going on this. There have been some great ideas coming. So while I would let this poll be open, some people are saying do not completely kill the proxy decay and reduce it. It should not be every week, but maybe a month or more, or maybe an year, just to make sure that there is no kind of perpetual voting by mistake for people, like people disappearing, dying, or by mistake letting this proxy continue. I agree on that. There is a case for decay in corner cases, but the idea was to not enforce this kind of a decay for proxies when people can anyway change proxy anytime. Then there are a lot of other polls going on. People are talking about all the tokens to be distributed to everybody. This is not a great idea because you are basically helping whales. The other thing which I found it interesting, and I have actually contributed in that like definition of that referendum. I wanted to talk about that. Let me see where it is. This is the one. I think this is a poll. I was talking to Colin Crypto. If you are, I think many of you may be subscriber of his channel. So we have been discussing between two of us. We have been discussing many of these polls and referendums, and this came up. He wanted to propose increasing or decreasing unstaking duration, and we came to a conclusion that decreasing may not be possible. It has to be 3 days for a certain reason, and especially it will only benefit exchanges. But he agreed that we both of us agree that this is a great security measure where you can choose that your token should not be unstaked because you are out, you are not meant, you are off the network for a few days. You're not tracking your transaction if your keys get stolen. you do not want to be worried about what's going on. And so it's a good idea. I think technically it can be implemented at a permissions level. So there was some great discussion again on our Telegram channel. So Michael Yeats from EOS DAC, he has been helping define how it can be done. So it's possible. But I think it's more about looking for a solution. The poll is more about looking for a solution at a very high level, in a system level. And the good news is that 100% right now is saying yes, even though means it's a big contribution is coming from investing with a difference. So I won't call yet this poll to be successfully going in the direction, but I would recommend you to vote on this and let us know how it looks. So a lot of other stuff coming. I think another thing was to have a small cost. So as you can see, that number of proposals are continuously increasing. The good news is all the low backing proposals will never be shown up in the top. So you need some marketing, you need to bring some backing before you can see these proposals on the top. But I think the idea here was to add a small cost, and I voted yes for it. But it's not a bad idea if we can actually force a little bit of cost for creating proposals, so that we don't really get too much of spam in the proposals. So these are some great things. I think it's very basic things being done. So again, as a summary, if you're asking when Rex, we need to wait for this approval, and it can be implemented by block producers very quickly because the code is available. And ECAF, I think it's going in a bad direction because people want to delete it, even though it's not going to change anything in the system contract or anything, but this will give block producers much more actionable items once people approve it. So these two, I think, are the most strong referendums right now. Most of the others are just polls, or maybe not executable, or they are not being accepted by the community right now. So that is the status of referendums, and these are the two big things happening, and we wanted to update you. I hope you like our updates. We keep reminding you to participate in EOS. A lot of things can change. A lot of great discussions are happening in the community right now, on the Telegram channel, on various forums. And we hope that these updates are helping you keep up to date if you're not able to participate that actively. But definitely through a proxy, we will keep voting for you on the important topics. And as I keep telling you, if you disagree with us on any topic, feel free to vote directly. And if you're not using our proxy, we highly recommend you to please go and vote on referendums, and or use other proxies who are voting just like you want to vote. So do something about it, because this is going to, it's now with the referendum systems, you can make progress by voting, and not just wait for BPs to act, or some kind of a block one initiatives to come. So thanks a lot for joining, and let's hope that we can make this democracy work, that is depots work, and prove to the world that this is the maybe the perhaps the only global voting system which works using your tokens, using your stake. And maybe this is something which can set up, the referendum system can be actually set up as an example of how worldwide democracies should work. And that's what makes me more and more excited about this particular exercise we are doing in EOS world. It's a great experiment and a great thing which be happening on blockchain. So do participate, and tell us what you feel. And I keep saying, I think this is a great message here. Your opinion matters, and it's nothing better than this now. You cannot say even adding one token to this tally is important, and that's what is